Okay, with me right now is Nicholas J. Pirro and Tony Pietrafesa, both of whom belong to the Columbus Monument Corporation in Syracuse, New York. And both of these gentlemen, along with their sizable group, have been fighting the good fight for all Italian Americans there in trying to, in succeeding, I should say, in stopping Mayor Ben Walsh and his efforts to tear down the Columbus monument in Columbus Circle in Syracuse. And so, gentlemen, I want to congratulate you both. It's been an arduous task on your part, but you've been very successful so far. You had a legal victory on March 11th. Mr. Pietrafesa, if you can tell us real quick, how significant is that victory?
I will tell you, Troopy, I think the decision was much better than what we had anticipated. In other words, the judge saw all the arguments and we would have been happy to get half a loaf, or at least have him say, well, I see what you're saying. Maybe we got to have a trial. But he saw very plainly in the record, which was an exhaustive record. The good thing about this judge was he let everybody do what they wanted to do. In other words, he was very generous with his time. He was very generous with the record. The city had probably 100 different exhibits. So it was well documented, and he had a lot to work with to digest, to come up with it. We were fortunate in our case, as opposed to some of the other city cases. We were in state Supreme Court. This was not a federal civil rights action like some of the other ones do. We didn't have a federal claim. What we did have was two things in our favor. We had to work hard to get the court to recognize that against the great opposition that the city put up with its very expensive lawyers. But one thing was, in 1992, there was a contract between the state of New York and the city of Syracuse to restore the monument and maintain it. Although the corporation was not named in the document, they contributed money towards the cause, and thus the court found that the corporation was a third-party beneficiary. So as long as that contract still exists, and he said it did, then even if the state doesn't care, the city can't touch the monument without our permission. And that was a big win there. The other thing, the other flank of this, which we were also successful, is in our city charter, there is a provision that says that city resident taxpayers, in other words, you own your house, can sue the city to stop them from wasting city property or assets. Now, normally there's parallel sites in other parts of municipal law in New York, and the case law usually refers to this section as a way to go against corruption and graft, bribery, that sort of thing. But it also covers bad faith. And what the court found here was that the city did act in bad faith when they tried to get the state to sign a document saying that the covenants protecting the monument were no longer useful. They misrepresented several parts of the contract in getting the state to sign it. The judge saw that, recognized it for the bad faith act that it was, and sustained our cause of action for our 25 individual petitioners. So they have the right in and of themselves to sue the mayor in the future to stop him from trying to take down the monument. So those are two big victories for us. And the fact that the judge recognizes that there's a continuing duty on the part of the city not to destroy the monument, but to maintain the monument was a great win for us.
Well, that's great. Just reading the case, it looked like that the statue was first erected in 1934, but it looked like, just from what I could read, the 1990s was a big period. And Mr. Pirro was involved. He was a county executive for that time. He was a county executive for many years, in fact. And that was you were trying to restore the statue at that time, and it was an agreement that you had made with the city, Mr. Pirro, you and your group, to the statue.
Yes, well, this was the quincentennial, 500-year celebration in '92, and we worked with the state. We were getting state money. The city was going to put in some, but it also required that the Columbus Monument Group raise some money, and we did raise, I think it was $167,000, so that we were partners with the city and with the state in the redoing of the monument for the quincentennial. And that also held up to show that the citizens, the people that live in Syracuse, had a stake in the monument.
You got a model of the monument behind you, correct? That's from the original Renzo Baldi, I think, was the one who was the sculptor,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
His name's carved into it. It's the original bronze replica. I think Tony's got one too. And it, it's the type of thing that keeps us working hard. And I got to say one thing about Tony and our legal team. We had 9 attorneys, all Italian attorneys, including 2 former state Supreme Court judges, former state senator. They worked tremendously together to fight this lawsuit, and they did a fantastic job. I'm not a lawyer, but I can certainly appreciate good legal work, and they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and the Calabreses didn't kill each other. That's one thing that came out.
What's the next step in the process? As the mayor, what's the mayor's reaction to it all? What's he planning on doing now with regard to the case?
Well, the mayor was given what we call an off ramp by the judge's decision. He could have got out of this. He got into it during all the protesting and stuff.
Right.
And he had a lot of people banging on his door, and he thought it was a good idea, which to maybe curry favor with those group of protesters. But as we moved along, the mayor has now decided to appeal the decision. He had a chance to get out of it. We could all work together as we had proposed, because we had made proposals a year ago to try to settle this thing. But he has chosen to move ahead. So more work for our lawyers and more work for his, as Tony pointed out, he's hired a very expensive private law firm to represent the city. He's a very stubborn guy, and he just didn't see an opportunity here to settle this thing, which is too bad.
What was if you give us an idea of the settlement? Sounded pretty generous where I'm sitting. Tell us some details about the settlement offer that you made to him.
Well, this was a year ago, March, just about a year ago from now. We offered to leave the statue. There's a small pocket park right next to the statue. We offered to develop that as a heritage park, allowing other ethnic groups to bring a statue, bring whatever they want, a kiosk, whatever, and that we would raise $25,000 to get it off the ground. He never even personally responded. He had one of his attorneys send, I think Tony can maybe clarify, but send a letter or a memo or something saying not interested. Again, he's not, he's had opportunities here to settle this thing and not create division, but the same reason that he's done it in other lawsuits. He fights right to the end, usually loses, and this is the case here.
He just seems hell bent to tear it down. It's just ever since 2020, he's just been very adamant about it. It was been so many things are happening right now in Syracuse, elsewhere. You would think his time might be better spent to try and solve some of those problems rather than tear down the statues that's been around.
Yeah, I live in the city of Syracuse, probably about 6 blocks from City Hall, from downtown area, and I can tell you the crime around here. There's something every weekend, almost every week, and they claim they don't have enough police and everything, and yet he's spending probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, what he's done to fight this thing, because he made a bad decision and he's just going to try to stick with it. But I think this court case has set us off on a good path.
Mr. Pietrafesa, how long can this pursue? I mean, the appeals, then you have appeals afterwards. How long can this go on?
Well, this goes to the appellate division, which is the intermediate appellate court in New York State in Rochester. The scuttlebutt is that they say the city will perfect its appeal, which means that we'll have a record and a brief filed by the end of May. I think that's pretty aggressive. But even if we get that done, probably this would not be heard until the fall. We might not get a decision from the appellate division until the first of the year. But then from there, really, Truby, it's not an automatic lift to the Court of Appeals, which is the state's highest court. I don't think if the court simply affirms Judge Neary's decision that they have an automatic right to appeal to the Court of Appeals. And sometimes, like the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals doesn't hear every case. Yeah. So if they did, and we had to go that route, or if the the appellate division finds for the mayor, and we find reason and a way to get it appealed, then I suppose we will. So this could drag on into the coming year, unless we can settle it, which we'd be happy to do.
And you've offered to settle it afterwards also. Do you
Yeah.
you still won't accept it, I'm assuming, at this stage in the game? He still isn't accepting your offer to settle.
We've heard from other people. This mayor doesn't like to speak. He made one mistake early on where he spoke his mind, and we have that on tape, and we use that as part of the petition. But normally he lets other people do the talking for him. And there are people who are quote unquote allies of the Onondaga Nation and those people, much more so than I think, the nation or anyone else, have been the most vocal in terms of their opposition. And there was 2 meetings they've had in the last 2 weeks. And basically their whole thing is, nothing, the only way to make it right is to take the statute down. In fact, or worse, the Council for the Nation somebody said, well, what can we do to help the Onondagas? And his response was, and this is their lawyer, give back the land. Well, that's not going to happen, right? So that's not going to happen. So, they're not going to let this go either, unfortunately, even though we could make a compromise and have it done by the end of the year.
How worried are you both about vandalism and people taking the law into their own hands? I mean, that could be a serious situation.
Yeah.
Last week, the Syracuse Peace Council, they're a group of anti-war individuals, and along with some what they're called neighbors of the Onondaga Nation. They're mostly all I don't know what to characterize them as, but they're always involved in these type of things. And they had a rally there, and they had a couple of people who climbed up on the monument and put placards, tape placards, put duct tape over the faces and the mouths of some of the characters on the monument plaques. And but they didn't do any real damage in the sense of paint or anything like that. Following that, the Syracuse Police Department, I'm sure, not at the request of the mayor, put out a press release saying that anybody who defaces the monument or any monument in Syracuse will be arrested. And we're telling you right now, the next time around, you better not do this. So that was good to see them take the lead on it and let people know it's unacceptable.
I received a email from your group today about this. It was about I have it here with me, about there was a Zoom meeting apparently with, it looks like the Syracuse Peace Council back on March 24th, and a person was invited to speak. And she was a landscape artist. Her name was Anna Tiberzi. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. But what was disturbing about it was that your organization recorded what she said. And if I can just read this really quickly to you, she says about vandalism, whether or not that's okay. And she says, well, especially in some of our larger monuments where people are riding all over the base, and they were riding as far as they could reach and layering one on top of another, just spray paint and posters. It is really powerful and is a huge vehicle for conversation. And you raise the point, and your organization, the Columbus Monument Corporation, raises the point as just vandalism as a means of conversation. So that was kind of disturbing to read that. This person's a landscape artist working with a group that's working with the mayor.
Well, my take on it is every time they do something like this, it just gives us more strength and more people joining our side. I hear it from, as I go around town, everyone saying, first of all, congratulations on winning the lawsuit, but, we're not going to put up with these people doing defacing and all that stuff. So it helps us to get more support.
Mr. Pietrafesa, what happens with that? When it's a felony to vandalize a statue like that, but what about when you have people having these kinds of meetings and they're talking about it? Is there a claim of conspiracy or anything of that effect? I mean,
no, I think the problem is, and Nick would say it too. We don't engage with these people all the time, but they actually put these 2 meetings on their website. So, it's public. And what you see is, and I think this is true, I would say to the people watching this podcast, for those in other cities, who are concerned about whether it's Columbus Day or a monument or other parts of their heritage that's visible and they want to keep, is that these people on the other side are not going to go away. They're crazy. I mean, when I say crazy, they are fanatic in their belief that they are the only ones who are correct, which just means we have to be that much more diligent and assiduous in making sure our point gets across.
Well, this is very personal for you. You have
Yes.
an ancestral connection. Tell us about that, if you mind.
Yeah, but I mean, both Nick's family and my family go back to 1934 when the monument was erected. It's also, there's others involved in the corporation and others in our petitioners who likewise are second or third generation into this. So it's become what people don't understand, and we've tried to make this point to the mayor and elsewhere, is that, you know, our perceptions of Columbus can change over time. You know, Columbus the man. But for those of us who grew up in Syracuse, live in Syracuse, part of the Italian community or part of the large immigrant community in Syracuse, the monument represents something much more than just Christopher Columbus. His identity as a person of hope, a discoverer who came here first, others followed, our parents, our grandparents, so that it is really transcended. It's not so much an honor to one man, but so much an honor to those who came before us and helped make Syracuse what it is. And it's hard to get that message out, but that's really where it is.
When did this all, did it begin before 2020, this animosity towards Columbus and Syracuse, at least with the Indian tribe there? Or, because I mean, you've been there for some years, Mr. Pirro. I mean, you've been there since you're born and raised in Syracuse. And looking at some of the historical photographs and other things, it looked like it was a nice celebration every year during Columbus Day. It was a real outpouring, and it still is in some respects. When did this all, was 2020 the first of it all, or did it start before that when things began?
We had a couple of individuals, and I'm talking about like one person in the early, maybe around 2010, would show up at the monument and be against it. That individual, I haven't seen him in about 5 years now. It's only been, as you say, from 2020 where this group decided, and a lot had to do with what went on nationally, where They decided they were going to go after everything, cancel culture or whatever you want to call it. And that's when it really picked up here. And of course, the mayor played right into, their protests. There was a handful of people. I mean, you're talking 75 to 100 people. Mayor played right into it and gave them some traction. However, the day of the court hearing, we had about 150 people show up just for the court hearing. Obviously, they all couldn't get into the courtroom, but they were there in support. And we have literally thousands of people now that have signed on and are very interested. And we have a lot of other ethnic groups. I personally met with the Polish community, the German community, Ukrainian community, with the Jewish community, and none of them want to see the statue down. And they've signed petitions and everything else. So, we have a lot of broad support in this thing, not just the Italian people. People understand if it's us today, it could be them tomorrow.
Right. And you have a lot of the statues there too. I mean, just it just takes a little imagination from antagonists to make a case to tear down some of these other statues that you might have.
Absolutely. And, we saw that, but I think the situation is starting to turn in favor of not doing these things and stopping people that are trying to do it. But it's going to be a battle for probably a long time.
What's important about this podcast and so many others like it is we should get to share information with people all around the country that is facing similar problems that you all have faced. What do you think that you've been doing right so far that could be that you can make suggestions to other folks that are facing the same problem? What activity have you been doing besides the court case, of course, the court challenges, to try to change the dynamic there and get people on your side?
Well, I'll let Tony speak about the legal side of it, but from our perspective, again, when this first started coming down and the mayor, wouldn't back down, and we realized we had to go the legal route, we started going out. I met, as I mentioned, personally with many other ethnic groups. We went out and spoke to a lot of the Italian groups, spoke to other elected officials at different levels, and just let them know that we were ready to fight this thing big time. And that was the bringing together of 9 fine attorneys who again, did a fantastic job. Tony's leadership of that group, along with Senator DeFrancisco, who was the second, and former Judge Aloy. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of names that we could put in there. They all did a fantastic job in fighting this battle.
Well, you've been pretty good at communicating your cause too. I mean, I keep on getting information about your cause. Robert Gardino, of course, is a person who's working with you closely. He's been in charge of communications there, and just been getting a lot of. You have a website that's been very engaging, and so it seems like you just have a real good team up there. I deal with a lot of people in this effort, and I got to say, yours is one of the better ones where you've got a good legal team going, and you got a good communication team and a good political team also en route. That's very effective, and that's so important, I think.
Well, I failed to mention the social media team, who's done a great job in getting the word out. And you see it. You just mentioned it. Tony Alacqua, Rich Pietrafesa, Bob Gardino have all done a great job in social media, getting the word out and letting people know. Some of those meetings that the group had, when people see, we put what they've saying on, and that gets people fired up too when they start seeing stupid comments like has been mentioned in some of those meetings.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people in other cities to understand that you have to be organized, because your opposition is extremely organized. In the case of when you're dealing with government, they have all the arrows in the quiver. So it was important to us. I can just say from the legal team standpoint, we had a principal client in the corporation. We knew what they wanted, but it was important for us to engage other people in the community. What gets lost in some of the news reports is we have 25 individuals who stood with us or stood with the corporation. As petitioners who have a right, just as the corporation does, to tell the mayor not to touch the statue. And that was extremely important. And it's all due to the efforts of Nick and some of the other people, and Bob Gardino on the corporation, who went out and asked people, because people were coming and saying, I heard you guys are going to do this. What can I do? Well, we need you to stand up with us. And we had a lot of people, some who are not Italians, who have stood with us as captioned petitioners. And that's a big deal. And I think we've been able to keep the lines of communication open with them. And as you can see in the social media, we did billboards for a while. And that was, we've done the lawn sign thing and the billboard. So, some people got mad and thought we were conducting a political campaign against the mayor. It was really just a way to because we weren't getting anything from the news, TV stations and the newspapers. I mean, Nick can speak to that, but we couldn't get any purchase with them. So we had to take our message to the people. And while you don't always get feedback on that as much as you like, I think it's made a dent and made a big impression when we were able to go to court to have that kind of visible support from people outside of the community. It's not just a bunch of lawyers showing up.
What can people do to help you outside of Syracuse and outside of even New York too? What can I do what do you need from other Italian American communities to try and assist you in this effort?
Well, one of the things that we've got from a lot of the state groups and a few national groups is contributions. Asking people that they don't live in Syracuse, if they have friends in Syracuse, relatives or whatever, to call them and tell them to get on board with us. You just got to build your base. That's all you can do.
Yeah, we have a petition at ipetitions.org, not the other national brand. We don't want to get involved with them. So there is a petition at iPetitions. People can go sign. If they go to the corporation's website, you can have there's a place there so that you can email Ben Walsh and let them know what you think. The other side's good at doing that, so we should be doing it as well.
So what's the next step in the process for you regarding the case and everything else? What's the next step?
Well, we'll wait and see what the city wants to do. They filed their notice of appeal within an hour of getting the decision. So, I mean, they knew, I think they were ready for whatever the judge was going to say. Probably, unless he threw it out, they would have appealed it anyway. So, the next step would be to meet with the lawyers for the city, try to determine what the record should look like, because there's 150 items in the record. Not all of them does the appellate division need to see to decide if the judge made the right call or not. But so we'll do that. Then there's the brief writing, and then there's an oral argument.
And so it could go on for a while as people continue to appeal. What's your, and Mr. Pirro, what do you see happening in the future with this? I mean, you've been in politics for a while. What's your sense of it all?
Well, again, winning the court case at the New York State Supreme Court level was important. People have saw that we, had a winning case. It built a lot of support. We just got to continue. I mean, if the mayor's going to continue with his appeal, then our attorneys will have to make their case once again, and I'm sure they'll win again. But meanwhile, we're going to keep trying to talk to people, especially people that are close to the mayor, to try to convince them that he's fighting a losing battle and he's costing the taxpayers a lot of money. And you mentioned earlier, he's got more problems in the city between crime and not having enough police and a whole series of other things going on. He should really be focused on that. But, we're just going to have to, it's onward and upward. And we're going to have to continue the battle.
Well, that's great, because you're doing a fantastic job. We're all very proud of you. When I hear the events that come out of there, I share with many different people, especially New York. They're very interested. They seem to be focusing in Brooklyn, for instance. There's a movement underway right now to try and tear down a statue there. And the people involved in that effort are focused on what's going on in Syracuse, because they can see where you're heading, what you're doing, and borrow some of that in their own cause. So it's very, very important that we all focus on what's going on up in Syracuse and try to support you as much as possible, and just be aware of everything that's happening there. So
the one good thing that's happening is that we're all talking to each other.
Yes.
Through the various groups, the Conference of Presidents, everyone is talking for the first time, helping each other. And that really is going to play a big role in making sure that we're all successful.
And it seems like we're going to get Italy also involved, also in the process as well. The Italian government also help us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and we just want, I think, the message from Syracuse is you can beat City Hall. We can still preserve our heritage, not without a fight, but the fight is worth it.
Well, that's great. Well, I want to congratulate you both on your efforts so far, and I'm pulling for you. We're all pulling for you here, and everybody's on your team, and your fight's our fight, and so we just want to say we're proud of your efforts, and we're very pleased with what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys, and God bless you, and all the best to you. Keep us posted as to what's going on.
Will do.
Yeah, Thank you very much, folks. Thank you.